I don't know what it's like where you are, but as I was mentioning, May in Delaware, it's special, as is October, because the months in between are pretty much high humidity, although some of you who live in very tropical areas will laugh at the high humidity that we experience here, which will feel like a dry day to you. But it's what your body's used to, and when we get 50 and 60% humidity and above, there's that different quality to the air. You know, I'm thinking a lot about experiencing and re-experiencing the four elements, because I've been constantly putting together the thoughts for what I'm going to share for those who are taking my elemental balancing series. And dampness and experiencing water in the sense of fog and what we breathe in that feels moist. This time of the year when we go from the crisp clarity of air around here that is not humid to when the humidity starts coming into it and breathing it into your body, kind of taking in water in a different way. I've been thinking a lot of this week about moistness. What parts of our life are moist and giving, and what parts welcome it, absorb it, bring it in. And I've been finding pivot points in my life that where I might be resisting that receptivity. You know, the summer storms haven't begun yet, so it's not like we're full up with water, and I mean full up with water in the literal and the figurative way, that we have room to expand, to take in what moistens us and spreads us out and makes us, wow, it's like the more we take in, the more receptive we are. Yes, we get to the place that we need to be. We reached our limit, but there's something about the lesson in this time of year for me that is not about the limit. It's about being the human sponge that will breathe in the damp air and take in the new experiences and feel ourselves full up with them, holding them within us. So I've been thinking a lot about moistness and what it does to our body, really in the specific sense of how our bodies are different. That dry winter skin is going away, and there's moistness instead, and the hair goes flat. For somebody like me with straight hair, it doesn't go curly like some of my friends with the beautiful curly hair. In my case, it just goes kind of like, yeah. That's part of what the body does in reaction to it. And I was thinking last night, and I was going to share it with you for a moment, I felt like doing a little drumming up of the elements last night. Now, I am not that fantastic of a drummer. As far as my skill levels, I watched Brenda's videos, Nature's Fairies and Nature's Fairy. And I probably still said that wrong, Brenda. It's Nature's Fairy, I think. She is so talented and is always growing her talents when it comes to drumming. And I can do the most basic of drumming, and when I'm in a circle, I'm the one who's kind of banging away, and it's my enthusiasm that lends its energy to the drumming, not my drumming per se. But I remember when I was making Ome, some of you are familiar with Ome, my drum, I made her from scratch on a retreat. And one of the things that was fascinating to learn, and part of the spiritual lesson, this retreat really was around building your drum through really entering the mind of a shaman and doing vision quests and building your drum and having a relationship with the drum. And many of you know I do indeed have a relationship with her. One of the fascinating things when you deal with these kinds of drums that are made truly of skin and that you've stretched yourself, so the stretching is not perfect, is you can't always drum on them. Ernie likes Ome too. I don't know if you can see him in the shot or not, but he's here. You can't always drum on a drum made of skin. Just like our human skin, there's lessons from when we are tight and when we reverberate and offer something back and when we just take it in and hold it. And this week I was thinking, especially when it culminated with the fact that Ome cannot be drummed, as she is at the moment. Ernie wants to come up and help with the drumming. I'll drum on your little bulldog head. Yes, I will. He loves this. He loves the beater for some reason. Probably being Ernie because he wants to chew it or run off with it. But the lesson I'm talking about here, that I was thinking about last night with this whole idea of moistness and holding it in and reaching our full, is the relationship to our drum. One of the things that we learn from it, he loves the beads on the end of it here. one of the things we learn from it is we can't always do exactly what we want to do. We need to live in the place we are sometimes. Ome cannot be drummed when it's this humid out. Listen to her. Thud. And nothing. Now we could look at it. If we were thinking of Ome and what she can teach me, I might think, well, I need to fix that. Because there are ways to fix it. All of you who have skin drums know when you are camping or out in the open, you just plop your drum up against the fire. Back enough. I loved that when we were learning how to heat our drums, to take the dampness out of the skin, to bring the toning back to them, that what we were taught is lean your drum up. Usually it's great to put a stick or something back here. Lean it up against the fire. And someone said, well, how close? How do we know? Can we do damage to it? And our teacher said, of course you can. This is skin. This is a living element. This is a living thing. How you know when you're at the perfect place for warming your drum and taking the dampness out of the skin so that you can drum is you keep your hand on it. Because this and this are the same thing. And when it's too hot for this, it's too hot for this. Oh, what a relationship that then caused me to conceive of when it comes to drumming on true skin drums. To Ome right now, she is as full as dampness as I am feeling, full up and soaked in, moist. She's the same way right now. She cannot be drummed. I could have drummed her if I wanted to take her out in the house. I turn on the elements on my stove and I turn her upside down and I rub my hand on her so that it's not too hot for either she or me. And I warm her up so she releases her moisture. And then she can be drummed and her song is beautiful. But not now. Not now. She's full up. She's full. She's full up. And I wanted to share that because there's something about moisture and thinking about our bodies and the water that we are and the water that we take in that has been very much a part of this week for me. A lesson learned from Ome. Now, interestingly, I don't know if this is going to get in the frame or not. I'm trying to make it about the drum and not so much about me. This is my oldest drum, which I've had for a very long time, and it is indeed, once again, skin on some kind of a wood, and I've had it so long I don't know what kind of wood it is. But it is fur covered. It's fur covered. And it's interesting that over the years that I've had it, I haven't worn the fur off of it. And here's something very interesting is, this one actually doesn't like to be drummed when it is very hot out, when there's no humidity in the air. Something about the shrinking up and losing of its elasticity matters to this drum. I'm using this I didn't grab the right beater. This beater doesn't do well with this. It needs something a lot harsher, but this is a soft beater for Ome. But listen to the difference, the fur covering this and the way it protects the skin. So I could use that to drum with, even though I couldn't use Ome, and it was a good lesson for me. It was a lesson for me in the covering and the protection, and what envelops this drum actually makes it playable even when it is humid. And it is also that there are old friends that we can turn to and inspirations from our past that we can turn to. I am so used now to picking up Ome, who is an extension of myself and the moon and of Owl, that the lesson there for me was that I didn't want to heat her up and make her playable. Sometimes she wants to be played, and I do that. But she needed to be full up. She needed to feel her moisture and be that softness that I receive. I'm not sending off right now, thank you. I'm pulling things in. And that was a lesson that I could learn from her about the season and me in the season. And then I picked up my old drum, who I don't even have a name for this drum. Even though I've had it a long time, I know it is male, and I love it. But I played it more as an instrument. It was never a soul partner the way that Ome was. And I'm sure that has to do with the fact that I made Ome. And actually, as we said in that retreat where our drums were made, I birthed her. So I had some thoughts this week about dampness and taking in water in so many ways that we don't always think of, because being open to absorbing Just taking in, not feeling it's about being taught and bouncing back, or projecting ourselves, being the drum that's got something to say, it must be heard. No, sometimes it's about being in a way that spiritual sponge which just absorbs until you get to the place that you've absorbed enough, that you have that pause where you think about that for a bit, and then decide what you're going to give back. Those were lessons I had this week about humidity and lessons from the drum. Taking in and then expanding.